everyone, and welcome to another day of Bookmas. So today I'm going to be talking about all of my Autobuy authors. So not all of them, because there are far too many, but we're going to be talking about 10 Autobuy authors today. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So my first Autobuy author that I'm going to talk about today is Holly Bourne. So Holly Bourne is a UKYA author who writes contemporaries, and they're brilliant. Holly Bourne has done a lot of work with young people on like mental health and things like that. So she knows what she's talking about, and she's not afraid to explore topics that are a bit darker. So The Places I've Cried in Public, which is the one I've chosen to display today, is all about an abusive relationship and coming to terms with it being over and moving on with yourself. But she's also written books about OCD. She's written books about kind of societal expectations in like movies and stuff. And I will buy and read all of her books. She's wonderful. She also writes some adult contemporaries. I haven't read either of them yet, but I'm looking forward to trying those as well. The next author on this list is Sarah Barnard, who wrote Beautiful Broken Things. Sarah Barnard is another UKYA author who writes contemporaries with like harder subject matter, and again, she is absolutely brilliant. A Quiet Kind of Thunder is one of my favourite books of all time. Goodbye Perfect won the YA Book Prize last year, so she writes to like a really high standard. And also all of her stories are really short, so they're nice ones that you can just read in one sitting. They have a lot to say, but they don't take their time getting there. They're just very concise and to the point, and I think she is a wonderful author. Her next book, Destination Anywhere, is coming out next year. It was meant to be released this summer, but it got pushed back because of COVID, and I'm looking forward to reading more of her work. The next author on this list is M McManus, who writes YA thrillers. So she's written One of Us is Lying, Two Can Keep a Secret, One of Us is Next, and her new book, The Cousins, is coming out in December. If you haven't heard of One of Us is Lying, I don't know where you've been, because this has been a massive release. And even though it wasn't like my favourite, I think her books are so gripping and they really do keep you guessing, and they're a lot of fun, and she makes some really great characters as well. Like the cast of characters in here are really fun. So she's another one who I'm going to be buying all of her books, especially because like the covers are gorgeous and they all have the sprayed edges, and like I'm a sucker for a pretty book, and these are definitely that. The next author on this list is Maggie Stiefvater, who wrote The Raven Cycle. I've been buying Maggie's books for years now. Like I read the Wolves of Mercy Fall series as it came out. I pre-ordered the last one and can remember reading it as soon as it arrived. Even though I hadn't read The Raven Cycle, I'd bought them all on pre-order. I finally read them last year, wondered why I'd waited for so long. And now that I'm up to date, I've read Call Down the Hawk, and I'm going to be pre-ordering Mr. Impossible, which comes out in the summer, which is the second book in the Dreamer trilogy. Maggie Stiefvater writes kind of magical realism, and it's just brilliant. Oh, Sean didn't like her writing because apparently she lists a lot, but I can't really remember that. But yeah, I really rate her. And I'm looking forward to finally reading the Scorpio Races and Ballad and Lament, which I have owned for forever and just have never picked up, and I don't know why. The fifth author on this list is Angie Thomas, who wrote The Hate You Give and On the Come Up. Her new book, Concrete Rose, is coming out in January, and it's a prequel to The Hate You Give following Star's father, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does with Maverick in the past, as he's like coming to terms with the fact that he's going to be a teen father, and the fact that that's going to be counted as historical, even though it was like it's set in the 90s and it's being counted as historical, which is just wild to me. We were born in the 90s. We're so old. But we do have two children. We are very old. Angie Thomas is a brilliant author. The Hate You Give is a kind of exploration of police brutality against black people in America. And I think it's such a timely subject. It's been out for 4 years now already, and it's still so relevant today, which is heartbreaking. And I can't wait till there's a time when people are like, that book isn't relevant, that book doesn't mean as much as it once did, because that will mean that society has progressed quite a lot. But On the Come Up is also brilliant, and that follows a girl who's kind of trying to get into like a rap career. So they're completely different stories, and they've got very different tones, but both of them are great, and they've both been 5 stars to me, and I know Concrete Rose is going to be exactly the same. The sixth author on this list is kind of a cheat, because I only own one of his books, but I am going to mention Neil Shusterman, because I've read 4 of his books. I've read the entire Ark of the Scythe series, and I've read Dry, which he wrote with his son Jared, and they've all been 5 stars. So Neil Shusterman will be an Autobuy author for me when I eventually buy the rest of his books, because every single one of them that I've read is 5 stars. Yeah, he'll be an Autobuy author when we're finally allowed to like go into bookshops and browse. Loved this series with my whole heart. I want to reread it even though I only read it a year ago, because it is that good. And this is like quite a chunky book, and we read this as soon as it came out, even though it's really chunky. And I just think it's impeccable. The way that he writes is so easy to digest, and his characters are great, and the little twists that he puts into his worlds, like, it's such a small thing. Like, what if humans did conquer death? Like, what would society be like? What if there was a really bad drought that meant that there was no water whatsoever? What would that be like? They're such simple subjects, but he makes them so powerful and impactful, and it's just mind-blowing. Like, this is what books should be like. And even though I do only own 2 copies of one of his books, he will be an Autobuy author, because I just love him. Like, I want to own everything he's ever released. We just own 2 copies of The Toll. No, you own one. I have 2 books in the, what's it called? Is it in the front? Is it in the front? Oh, no, it's not. I have 2 books in his Unwound dystology. I haven't read them because I haven't got the first one, but I found the second and third one in a charity shop and I bought them both, and then I've just never been able to find the others anywhere. So actually, yeah, I do own more of his books. He was an Autobuy author before I ever read any of his, because he had sounded so good. I was like, I'll buy the second and third book in a series and eventually get the rest. Thank you for reminding me of that. I got Challenger Deep on NetGalley as well, so I will eventually read that too. And that'll be good, because that's only just been published in the UK, came out in America ages and ages and ages ago, and I'd heard amazing things about it at the time. So that's another reason I haven't read his books, because they just weren't getting published in the UK, so they've been quite hard to get hold of. But yeah, that's true. I do own more of his, and I will eventually own them all and love them all, I'm sure. Another Autobuy author I'd like to mention is Cassandra Clare. This one's a little bit embarrassing, if I'm honest, because I've read 5 of Cassandra Clare's books. Well, I've read 5 of the ones that I own. I've read the first 5 books in the Mortal Instruments series. I've actually read more of her books because I've read the Magisterium series that she wrote with Holly Black, but I don't own those. But I own every single Shadowhunters book she's released, apart from Ghosts of the Shadow Market, which is like the short story collection that came out last year, 2 years ago. I just keep buying the Waterstones Rune editions because they're beautiful, and then I'm like, I'll read them eventually, puts on shelf, pre-orders the next one. Like, I've already got Chain of Iron pre-ordered, and I haven't read Chain of Gold, and I haven't read any of the Lady Midnight series, and I haven't read the Infernal Devices, but I will one day. And yeah, I'm just pretty stupid. They're pretty editions, and I'd rather pre-order a pretty edition that I can read eventually than wait and then really, really love it and have an ugly cover. It's not great logic, but it's fine. But also, if you've pre-ordered Chain of Iron, just a little side note here, if you've pre-ordered Chain of Iron, Walker have announced that they're doing like a pre-order incentive where you can get a die-cut bookmark, and it is gorgeous. So if you are also a Cassandra Clare auto-buyer, and you've already pre-ordered it, go check that out on Twitter. I'll link that down below. It should still be open. I think it's open until like March. But they announced it the other day, and I like jumped straight on that. So I'm glad I pre-ordered it, because now I get to have a really cute bookmark. That's helpful, especially like a wooden one. Like, that's really cool. The next author I'd like to mention is Robin Stevens, who wrote the Murder Most and Ladylike series. So I've read all of Robin Stevens' books that she has released so far, apart from Top Marks Murder and Death Set Sail, which are on my November TBR. We're filming these mid-November. I should be reading them by the end of November, so I should have read all of the books she's released so far. But I've already got her next short story collection, which is Once Upon a Crime, on pre-order, and I'm really, really looking forward to the Ministry of Unladylike Activity, which is coming out in 2022. So Robin Stevens writes middle grade murder mysteries, and they are just so brilliant. Like, I'm 24 and I can't guess what's going on in half of these books, because the twists and turns that she puts in are so good, and the red herrings are so subtly dropped that you just don't see it coming. And they're better than most YA mysteries. They're better than a lot of the adult mysteries that I've read. And I'm gonna love all of her books. I'm gonna buy and love all of her books. I just know it. And also, they're all gorgeous. Like, they've started releasing these in like the sprayed edge editions, so eventually we're gonna have like 2 copies of each of these as well, because we're gonna have the unsprayed and the sprayed. But that's not something I should admit, because we don't need to have like double copies of books and we've already got this many. But we will, because we love these. We love these. 1 copy each. That's very true. The penultimate auto-buy author that I would like to talk about is Jane Harper. Is the author of The Dry, Force of Nature, The Lost Man, and has The Survivors coming out in January, which I've already pre-ordered. So I love these thrillers because they're all set in Australia, so the atmosphere is such a huge part of the story. So in The Dry, you've got a drought going on, and there is a man kills his family and himself, and people think that it's because the drought has caused his farm to fail. But the investigator used to be friends with him when he was younger, and he thinks that there's more to the story than that. And honestly, if you pick one of Jane Harper's books to read, pick this one, because it is such a great place to start, and for a debut it is astounding. I need to reread these because I've loved all of them. I've given her all of the books of hers that I've read so far 5 stars, and I just can't wait to pick up The Survivors because I'm sure that's going to end up being a 5-star as well, because just the way that she writes the Australian setting and the characters are all great. I particularly love The Dry and Force of Nature because they both follow Aaron Falk, who is the lead detective in both of them. As far as I'm aware, The Survivors is a new set of characters again, but these ones are kind of like part of a series, which I enjoy, but I'm not sure if there's any more books following Aaron Falk to come in the future. But definitely recommend these. One of my favourite adult thriller authors. The Lost Man is really good. The Lost Man does have a lot of interesting twists. So I read that one with Sean, and that was like the first kind of thriller that we'd read together, and he didn't guess what was going on and I didn't guess what was going on, so that was really fun for both of us, because normally when we're reading like YA thrillers, Sean will guess it straight away or I'll guess it straight away, and then it kind of falls a bit flat. But with Jane Harper's The Lost Man, neither of us kind of saw what was going on, and so that was really fun. Jane Harper and Robin Stevens writing a series together would be like absolutely wild. I'd be loving that. It would be such a good mystery book series. We need to try and get that to happen. Like, it's not gonna, but that would be really, really fun. And the last auto-buy author on this list should be absolutely no surprise to anybody if you've watched any of my videos before, because it's Pierce Brown, and like, this is just self-explanatory. The Red Rising series is my favourite series of all time. Even though I didn't like Dark Age, I'm still going to buy the next one. And like, the only thing that he's written that isn't Red Rising related is a short story in a Star Wars collection. And I'm going to wait and see if I get it for Christmas, because I've dropped enough hints to my mum that I might be interested in it. So if I don't get it for Christmas, I'm going to order it in the new year, because even though I don't like Star Wars that much, like, I've seen the first 2 films, technically like the 4th and the 5th film, depending on which order you watch them in. I've seen those 2, and then I didn't really pay attention to the second one, and then I just didn't bother watching any of the rest. But like, Sean got me, he's just getting them, Sean got me the 5 books so that I could like read the films instead, and then I didn't read any of them either, and they're so short. These are like 100 pages each. They're like 180 pages each, and I haven't read any of these because I'm just not very Star Warsy. But a Pierce Brown Star Wars story is something that I will read, and I am also impressed with a lot of the other authors that are in the collection. Like, there's, I think N.K. Jemisin might have a book in there. There's another few people who I can't think of off the top of my head, but I can remember being like, ooh, and them, and like, that's exciting to me. Will Wheaton has a book in there, I know that much, a little story. But yes, looking forward to trying some of his writing that isn't set in the Red Rising world. Apprehensive because it's Star Warsy, but interested because I'm pretty sure he's following Biggs Darklighter, and that is a character whose name I recognise. Sean is now swinging both babies around in circles, so there's some screaming occurring. So I will wrap this up now. But yeah, those are the 10 authors who I will buy anything that they write, and I will probably love it. And I'm looking forward to buying more from them in the future, even if, like with Cassandra Clare, I just never read another of any of their books again. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below with who your biggest auto-buy author is. Sean is bringing the Screamy Baby over, so you can get some nice Screamy Baby at the end of your Bookmas video. Auto-buy Baby. Yeah, Autobuy babies. But yes, so if you leave me a comment down in the description with who your biggest Autobuy author is. Sophia wants to go in the kitchen and she's not allowed, so she's no knowing. Do you want to wait for the camera, my love? Do you want to wait for the camera? Say hello to the internet people. No. But anyway, thank you for watching. we'll see you tomorrow with another